She's like, Sean, I love you and I love what you're doing, but like, I don't want to be you. I want to sell $3 million and I want to be the best mom I can be. And I just want to make enough money that I can be the best mom that I want to be. And that was like, holy fuck, I've been doing this wrong. And that's when everything changed to...
If you're a real estate agent in Buffalo, New York, you're going to love this conversation. I was able to sit down with Sean Mattrey of the Blueprint team and Hunt Real Estate and dive into his journey from being a bartender in college to owning over 30 properties and having a top performing team in Buffalo. We talk about his journey and also what qualities and characteristics that agents need to have to really be top performers and stand out in the minds of their customers. So I hope you get something from this conversation like I did. And if you did, feel free to subscribe because I'm going to be doing more interviews like this with the realtors around Buffalo. Thank you so much, Sean, for sitting down with me. Now let's get into it. First off, thank you so much for not just being here, but getting in my car to help me get here.
So that means you're here.
I think that's pretty cool. I mean, one of those small things that probably doesn't mean much to you, but it's like for someone who's like panicking. Like,
dude,
that's huge. So I can only imagine like, if that's what you're willing to do for someone trying to come to set up some cameras, you got to be pretty good at what you do. So I think for starters, I want to make this conversation valuable, not just for people who are going to be watching it on the agent side of things, but hopefully maybe something in your audience who maybe is a buyer or selling investor. So how we start out, just tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and maybe how, kind of what you went over before we started recording.
Sure.
Where you got.
Like how it got all started. Yeah. So I'm 28 years old now. I come from a single mom background. My family actually owns a bowling alley, has owned it my entire life. So my entire life I worked at our bowling alley, saw my whole family work at our bowling alley, and really just kind of like dove into customer service like as a kid. I used to literally like go there and my mom and grandma would be like, you better say hi to everybody that's here. So like always been social. I've never had an issue with social interactions because, I was going to get my ass beat if I didn't talk to our customers. Right. And so that's kind of always made the business side of things easy for me because I think that being a personable person just makes a lot of business a lot easier. Especially getting into bartending, it was very easy to read what type of customer was on the other end. And so I've kind of used those skills that have gotten me into real estate now. But, going back, went to Canisius High School, went to Canisius College, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I just knew it would be something like business related. I was never really into like sciences or anything like that. And I started living with one of my best friends. He was on the soccer team. And so they needed an extra spot filled. And so I moved into this house. And there's 9 of us living there, and the rent was $400 per bedroom. And so I'm like, holy shit, man, this guy's making $3,600 a month. And so then I look up what he bought the house for, and I don't know anything about real estate. Like I just typed the address in on Zillow, and I'm like, this guy bought this house for 90 grand. Like he paid the entire house off in about 2 years of income. Like this is insane. Yeah. So I drove from our house to Barnes & Noble, bought the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then it was like Bigger Pockets. They have a podcast now that is blown up, but it was like Bigger Pockets, like how to be a effective landlord. Read both those books, called my college landlord and was like, I know you bought it for this. I know you make this. Like there's got to be a catch. Like what am I missing? He's like, no, dude, there's no catch. Like it's exactly what it is. And I just continued bartending throughout college. And then when I graduated with my bachelor's, I bought my first rental property, and it was right behind his, turned it into a 9-bedroom college house, needed a little bit of work, and then literally rented it to my friends that next year. And so that house today, still own it. It's been rented every single month since I purchased it. And so that's really what opened my eyes to real estate. And then I stayed at Canisius for my master's program. I had enough capital from bartending to buy my second rental property. A third one popped up, right? Because I'm just targeting like very specific. Wouldn't even have considered myself like a true real estate investor. It was more so like I knew college kids that needed housing. And now my mission was to find houses that I could put them into. And so the third house had come up and I was basically out of money. So I went to my mom and I went to her husband and I'm like, listen, you guys pay for it. I'll run it. You get every dollar the house produces until you're paid back. And then we split it 50-50. And now it was hilarious because they obviously agreed to do it right away. And what I tell everybody is when I bought that first house, my mom was like, are you fucking stupid? Like, are you insane? But it was hilarious because once I got done with the bachelor's, I moved back in at my mom's house. And so I literally was living in her house, owned 2 rental properties. She thinks I'm nuts. Right. but she starts noticing 17 rent checks hitting her mailbox every month. And so then she kind of saw, she's like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. And so we ended up buying 2 together by the time I graduated with my master's. And the 4th one is where my career, my life changed. And it was Rachel Sutherland. She actually works at Hunt Real Estate now. So we've kind of come full circle. Right. But so I was studying for an exam, and I would always just wander onto Zillow. And I see this house pop up by UB. It was right on Custer Street. And I was like, I want this house. And like, mind you, I knew nothing about being an agent. Every house that I bought, I would literally just go on Zillow, call the listing agent and be like, hey, I'll buy the house if I like it. Like, will you show it to me? Yeah. They're loving me, dude. Yeah. They're absolutely loving it. I mean, they would meet me and be like, how is this kid going to pull this off? But, you know, we did. And ultimately, I called the listing agent. The listing agent's like, I don't have time and offers are due in 3 hours. So I called my mom, and at the time I was cocktail serving Monday nights at our bowling alley, and it was a women's league. And so call my mom. I'm like, who the hell can show me this? Like, who do we know? And so she's like, Rachel that bowls on your Monday night league. Call her. So I call Rachel. I'm like, hey, it's Sean from Monday nights. I'm like, if I like this house, Rachel, I promise you, like, I will. I just need you to get me into it. She showed me it, and she was the first agent that I had that, going back to what we talked about before, like when we walked into the house, she pointed out everything that was wrong with the house. And she pointed out everything that was going to cost me money in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. And that, to me, I was like, wow, like that's what a good real estate agent does. Like, she didn't care whether I bought it, didn't buy it. She just knew that if she truly kind of pointed out the good, the bad, and the ugly, of course, she's going to earn my trust right there. Right. So then from there, that's kind of where our relationship started. And then she was at a time where her husband is also in real estate, but he was phasing out of real estate to go get back into banking. And so she came up and she's like, you know, what are you going to do when you get out of school? And I was like, probably fucking bartend and, right. You know, bartend and buy real estate. Yeah. You know, I loved bartending. I really did. It was a blast. But, you know, I'm looking back, I couldn't imagine being 28 years old and still putting my body through that. It's just super long nights. But when I said that to Rachel, she's like, listen, I don't know what your plans are, but I think you'd be a really good agent. And she's like, I'd be willing to train you and mentor you, and we can work on a team together. And ultimately, if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, you seem to want to continue buying houses at a rate where financially it's going to make sense for you to just have your license and represent yourself. Yeah. So now I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just told this woman that I would use her forever to buy real estate. And her next move is to say, hey, you should get into real estate. You know, effectively today, I own close to 30 properties. I mean, that could be 30 sales for her, but that's just the type of person she is. Like, I have the world to speak of Rachel. And if it wasn't for Rachel, I don't know if you and I are sitting here today. I don't know how any of this happens. But yeah, that's what kind of got me into real estate, and then got licensed, and then kind of been the story ever since.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think, you know, anytime you kind of go off out of your own to do something that isn't like the norm, parents especially are always like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. Until you start showing, hey, I got this. Right. We're good. And I think it's something that you constantly just kind of stack evidence of what you're doing is the right thing, and then learning skills along the way from others who improve that.
And it was like, I felt good about it because the house was going to cost me, I think it was like $1,100 a month was the payment between the mortgage, taxes, insurance. It was 9 bedrooms. Yeah. I'm like, I have 4 friends that I know will live here tomorrow. You know, so and then I just kind of said, okay, worst comes to worst, I got to pick up a couple extra bartending shifts and pay for it. Like, you know, I kind of took the approach of like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm not really worried about it. So, you know, I think a lot of people kind of sit on the sidelines because they're, you know, afraid, but I'm 21 years old. Yeah. Like, if I'm going to fuck this up, I'd rather do it now than at 40, you know, so.
Yeah. I've always been of the mindset of things just work out.
Yeah.
I don't know why, maybe I'm just super blessed, but any decision I've made where I'm just like, I'm just going to go for it.
Right.
It ends up working out. Yeah. Even though you can run through, I'm a huge overthinker. I know exactly what can go wrong. There's always that one, like, this one can go right. And then usually it doesn't go that way, but it goes away in that direction. Yeah. And I think a lot of people just, they sit on the sidelines and they just overthink things, and maybe they just don't have that evidence of like things working out.
Well, I think in anything, right, it comes down to, if I say this to our agents as well, and I took this approach when I was trying to get good at real estate from the sales side of things. Like, one day I just woke up and said, okay, for 40 to 50 hours per week, this is all I'm doing. and I'm going to do it all day, every day until I get to where I want to be. And now that where I want to be just keeps kind of pushing out. But to me, I think it's really hard to do something consistently for 40 to 50 hours a week and it not work. Like, I think it's really fucking hard for that to happen. I just think a lot of people, they do 50 hours of work one week. They don't have the result. And they're like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that cross between like, you got to just keep it consistent, but you got to kind of have that blind faith. And, you know, I think that that's a big thing that has helped me in my career, was just like, everyone's like, how the hell did you get to where you're at now? Yeah. And it was 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week. And I just trusted in the back of my head that we were going to get to where we want to be. And it continues to work. But I think that that's hard for people, right? Because it's like, I remember working 6 weeks straight, haven't sold a house. And I'm like, the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I have a master's degree. Why am I doing this? You know, but you got to just kind of take that leap of faith, and it tends to work out.
There's been plenty of times where I had my head on my desk when I started my business, like, what did I do? It's like, I just fucked this up. Like, things are going bad. But then it's like, hold on.
Really?
Give it a few minutes. Let's think about what had we done at this point and what can you change. But I think it's important to do things consistently over time. But it's also, you want to make sure you're still open to doing something new or realizing you might be doing the wrong work for 50 hours a week. And some people are saying, no, this is what I have to do. I've been doing it for so long. Like, well, it hasn't been working for 3 months. Right. What? Yeah, you obviously have to give yourself some time 100%. To see if something works. But I think a lot of people too, they just like, I'm going to do this. This is the only way to do it. And they're like, if it doesn't work, then I don't know what the hell's going on. There must be the world against me.
100%.
So I think that's really important. Now, I think before we started recording, you said that one of your friends told you that you just weren't working. Yeah. So talk to me more about that.
So, yeah, dude. I mean, so you've got to think like, my sophomore, it would have been my junior year of college. So this is 2 years pre-buying real estate. I haven't bought anything. I'm bartending all over Chippewa. I'm bartending in Allentown. I'm going to Canisius. I'm partying my fucking balls off. Like, I'm just going nuts. And I start buying rental properties, right? So by the time I get licensed, I'm making an absurd amount of money from bartending. Like, I would basically, throughout from my junior year in, junior year, senior year, and then the 2 years for the masters, I bartended just about every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I would take Tuesday, Wednesdays off. Those are like the reset days. But Thursday through Monday, I was bartending. I mean, $300 to $600 a shift, right? And most Fridays and Saturdays would be like bowling alley from like 6 to 10, and then go to like Encore on Chippewa from 11 p.m. until 4 in the morning. So some of those nights, dude, I'm making $1,200. So, I was very accustomed to making a good amount of money, at least for a 20, 21, 22-year-old, but by the time I'm licensed, I'm used to making that type of money bartending, and I own 4 rental properties. So I'm like, I'm on top of the world. I'm fucking 21 years old. I own rental properties. I've got more money than I know what to do with. And so I thought that it was very easy for me to get into bartending from the standpoint of I had a pretty decent following on social media. And a lot of that came from, I had a very good friend group from Grand Island. So I kind of knew everybody from Grand Island, like, everybody from your local town. But then I went to Canisius High School. So I had friends from basically every town and city throughout Western New York. Then stayed here for Canisius College. So I met a ton of new friends there. So I had this massive sphere. So all I would have to do when I bartended a new place, because bar owners, right, they want to see, can you bring people in? All I would have to do is post, right? Like, bartending this day, this night, and we'd pack the place. Did I give away a lot of free drinks? Yeah. But, the bar owners knew it, and they loved it because they want a busy bar. So it was... That's because kind of the mentality I took into real estate was, I know all these people. They know me. They come into the bar. Why wouldn't they buy or sell a house with me? Right? Like, it makes sense.
Logical.
Yeah.
They'll buy a drink, they'll buy a house.
So I'm 22 years old, like, just stupid. Sure as shit, it doesn't work that way, right? To a lot of people, it held me up getting them as a client because they're like, this is the bartender. Like, this is the crazy bartender that's always at the bar. So I sit down with, his name's Jim Lysing, still very, very good friend of mine to today. And, I'm talking about medical device sales because he got out of bartending and started doing that. And he's like, oh, you'd be good at it, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, well, tell me about your day. And so I'm like, they tell me to get on the phones. They tell me to post on social media. They tell me to do this. I don't want to fucking do any of that. That shit sucks. Nobody's reaching out to me about that. And he's like, Sean, everything you were describing, I do. Right. I have to do it for my job. Yeah. So it sounds like you're just not working. It sounds like you're not doing the work. He's like, why don't you just truly try? Like really give it everything you got for 6 months. If you still don't like it, let's have another conversation. Right. Said, that's fair. Mom basically said the same thing. It was, in 6 months, let's see where you're at. Mm-hmm. You're stupid to quit this early. And then I remember I just woke up one day. You could ask Johnny about it. Like it was like just somebody it was like a new person walked into the office. Right. And I would get to the office early in the morning, like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I'd stay there till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Wow. And it was every single day. And everyone's like, what the fuck could you can't talk to people from 7 in the morning until like 10. And then you can't talk to people from 7 p.m. on. So what are you doing? Right. But what I did was I sat there and I'd get on the phone with attorneys and with lenders. And I was like, I need you to explain every step of the deal to me and break it down. Like I would never categorize myself as like an intelligent human. Like sure. I got 70s, 80s in high school. Like I cheated on the entrance exam to get into Canisius High School. Sure. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was not like I was some brainiac. Mm-hmm. Like Canisius High School was the best thing that happened to me because you couldn't just kind of go through the motions there. Like you had to do the work right. in order to succeed there. And, but long story short, I took that mentality into real estate. And so I started just sitting in the office and I'm like, okay, today I'm going to learn everything I can about FHA loans. I'm going to learn everything I can about conventional loans. I'm going to learn the process inside and out from writing a contract to sending it off to the attorneys and the lenders to what can the attorneys do at the attorney approval stage, right? We can approve it. We can decline it. We can make changes. So I believed that it was super important to become like a true expert on the process. And sure as shit, it worked. Right. And because to me, it's like sales doesn't come down to like, oh, I'm a really good salesman. Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm a fucking horrible salesman. Yeah. What I'm really good at is getting in front of people, showing them that I have passion in what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But then they typically can't ask a question about real estate or about the transaction that I can't answer. Right. Whether it's lending, legal, like I've seen it typically with the number of deals that I've done. And it all goes back to, that's all I would do. I would just sit there with attorneys and sit there with lenders and I'd record the phone calls mm-hmm. and I would just play them back. Yeah. And then I would stand up in the office at midnight. Nobody's in there. I look like a crazy person, but I'm pacing around like speaking it. Yeah. Because that's like what I think agents don't realize is you can't just know it. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to speak it. Right. Because the person you're going to have to put on the show for is the client. Yeah. And it was literally like 3 weeks into just like working 50, 60 hours a week and like really giving a shit and consistently making calls, consistently making posts. I think in those first 3 weeks, dude, I did like almost $1 million in sales. Wow. So then I'm sitting there, I'm like, I just made like 20 grand, like after what I have to pay out and everything. And I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. Like it was like the light bulb just went off and it was like, this is what I have to do. Yeah. And so then I just got crazy about it. And I mean, to me, it's hard not, like I'm motivated by money. I have no problem saying that. That motivation has changed as time has gone on. But at 23 years old, when you're telling me, hey, if you sell this house, you can make 15 grand. Yeah. How do I find 50 more people just like that? Right. And so I would that's what I would do. And that was the turning point, was just like, okay, you've got to give it everything you got for 6 months. Yeah. And then from there, if it's not right, we'll go make a move. And luckily I gave it the 6 months because, I couldn't imagine doing anything else nowadays. Yeah. That's awesome. So it sounds like you just have to become, in my opinion, a student of the game of whatever you're doing and not be always focused on the output. Obviously we all like making money, but be like, hey, I need to figure out what other activities I need to do to become like the best at what I do. Yep. And then like for me, yes, I only do video and some marketing stuff for businesses, but I also would want to know how effective Facebook ads are. Right. Even though I don't do these things, I want to be able to talk about them if they come up, because then you just become even more trusted and better authority. Correct. And you're able to work with those people who do that even better, and they like you and things like that. So I think that's it's really smart of you to say, hey, I'm not necessarily going to be like learning the tactics of how to sell or how to get more leads. Like, how do I just become
better,
Right.
and more knowledgeable. And I think speaking it out loud is huge.
Yeah.
And then I'd imagine maybe you play through, or once you start saying it to people and they start asking you questions, that's a really important part too. So most people like memorize that first thing, and they get a question. It's
The
like,
question comes, they're like, oh, fuck, right? And I tell even like our new agents, right? Because that's a lot of what my function is now, is bringing agents on the team, teaching them, making them better, right? How can I make them better, and how can I get them to hit the goals that they want to hit? And I tell, like, early on in my career, like my go-to line to people was, I actually don't know the answer to that. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to call our top agent. I'll get you the answer right away. Yeah. And people still don't do it. Yeah. And they'll try to bullshit an answer together. And I'm like, why? Because the way that I go through my interactions with people is I always just try to sit on the other end of it, right? Like if I was in your shoes right now and that was what he said, how would I feel?
Yeah.
And I have a hard time thinking of a situation where I ask somebody a question that is the expert that says, I don't know, but give me 5 minutes. I'm going to go get the answer.
Right.
Who's going to be upset?
Yeah. I used to work.
Like,
I used to work at Best Buy selling electronics, and not as high ticket.
No.
But I would always tell my team is like the exact same thing. Don't bullshit somebody, because they're going to be able to tell.
The trust is
then
gone.
It's gone. And even people appreciate like, hey, I don't know, or I don't know 100%. Let me go figure out who it is.
Yep.
That's the key part. You can't just say I don't know either.
No.
It's like, but I know exactly who it is. That's probably something you get just from building a good network of people.
Yeah.
So it's important. So what skills do you think make a good agent in this?
In this? Yeah. I mean, it's a loaded question. You know, I think that there's a lot that goes into it, and I don't think there's a one size fits all, right? Like you've got people who are not super social, right? Like they can get by, but they're geniuses on the tech side of things and on the process side of things. Those people can still kill it. Right. I wouldn't say I'm really that type of person. You've got people on the other end of it where I'm going to wake up and my goal every week is to have as many conversations I can, provide as much value as I can to those people, because my goal through every conversation is, does that person, when the time comes that they want to buy a piece of real estate or sell a piece of real estate, when they think of that and when that time comes, does their mind go, I got to call Sean, right? Like, so I think it's a loaded question. I think as a whole, I think if there was characteristics that had to kind of blend with both, I think every good agent in our market, I think they're super consistent. You know, I think that they are very, very methodical about what do they do from a daily perspective to a weekly perspective to a monthly perspective to a quarterly perspective. You know, and I had a great conversation with Joe Sorrentino Jr., who's been an amazing mentor to me throughout my career. And he goes, I was actually thinking about the business the other day. And he goes, and it's so simple. You have a list of people that you are either going to sell a house to or have sold a house to. And all you have to do on a weekly basis is consistently stay in touch with those people and then continue to build that list. And if you think about it, like, I don't think there's a realtor out there, if they focused on that for 40 hours a week, they would sell a decent amount of houses, right? So to me, it's more, there's all walks of life that do well in this industry. Like I said, some have great social skills, some don't have the best social skills, but like there's different attributes you can have. But I think what I would chalk up that all of the successful agents have is brutally consistent. You know, that to me is the key. That's what's made me good in this industry. I would say I'm good in this industry, but you know, when I look in the top agents that I've talked to and worked with and networked with, that's kind of the same thing. You know, even switching over to Hunt recently, like I know who the top producers are in the office. They're here every day.
Right.
The agents who sell the most on our team, we're here every day. The agents that don't, they're typically not around, right? But now for some agents, that's okay, right? Like I have some agents on my team, they have no problem. They want to sell $4 million a year. $4 million a year and they're happy. Right. I have some agents on my team that are like, Sean, I want to rip your head off and I want to sell way past you. And right. So it's all about like what the goal is to me. Like that's how I measure success on our team is I sit down with each of our agents and it's like, what do you want? Right. And that was a big learning curve for me. Because when I first started, when the team first started, I was like, everyone on the team is going to be a killer.
Right.
And it was the moment you have that mentality, you're screwed. It was actually one of our members. She just had her second baby, but she had just had her first son, or maybe he was a year or two old. But I remember I was like, we have to do this. We have to do this. And she called me, and we're very close. And she's like, Sean, I love you and I love what you're doing, but like, I don't want to be you. I want to sell $3 million and I want to be the best mom I can be. And I just want to make enough money that I can be the best mom that I want to be. And that was like, holy fuck, I've been doing this wrong. Yeah. And that's when everything changed to, it wasn't, I'm going to show you all what I do and I'm going to expect you to do it. It was, tell me your goal. Let's figure out why you want that goal. And now how can I help you go hit it? Yeah. And the moment we took that approach on the team, that's when the team really started to explode. Because, it goes into the same thing with the clients. Like, there's no sales pitch here. I just want to help you. Yeah. And I think that when you take that approach in life, like, good things just start to happen and people just want to start following you. And that's kind of how we got here.
Yeah. Once you start attaching what they're doing to like what they actually want, they're much more happy you're doing it versus you coming and trying to fit them into this field. Like, you need to be doing, $20 million this year. And you're like, I want before, man. Right. You're like, they're going to end up hating it. And then it makes it harder to even do that for them because they're not enjoying it. You mentioned building a list and delivering value consistently. There's a balance, I'm sure, of consistently providing value to people and annoying the hell out of them. What are some ways to provide value?
This is probably like the number one question, because that's how I started my business. Was I just started pounding cold calls and then following up with people, and that's, to me, is the scariest part. Is like, I've got to talk to this person again. What if it's a bad time? What if they get pissed, right? So some tips that I use that I found are very effective is like, you have to be methodical about it, right? So like, holiday times, fucking best. Right. Gives me a reason to reach out for whatever holiday it may be, right? So like, you just pick your spots. I mean, the other thing that I do, I don't know if people agree with it, but like, constantly on the other end of the phone on a cold call, right? Oh yeah, I'm looking, but I'm like a year out. And I tell people, like, I love people like you. And they're like, what? I'm like, I love people in your position. Like, for the next year, you're going to watch the market and you're going to see what it's doing and what it's going to do, right? What I want to do, and I want to make sure this is okay with you, is I'd like to stay in touch like once a month. I'm going to just shoot you a check-in text. Don't even feel the need to respond, but I'm going to text you once a month. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I don't want to forget about you. I don't want you to forget about me. But more importantly, I'll be honest with you, it's because in a year from now, when you do want to make a move, I want to be the only person you're going to call. Yeah. Are you cool if I check in with you once a month? Sure. And now, mind you, they don't think it's ever going to happen, right? So then I'm that psychopath that on the day, like, I have all these crazy reminders set in our CRM system. So a month later, I will call them. And 99% of the time, who is this? Mike, it's Sean. We talked 1 month ago, and I told you that I was going to call you once a month, and you told me you were going to buy a house in a year, and I told you I was going to be your guy, and you told me to call you once a month. Oh, dude, that's right. How are you? Right? So like, you just start to kind of build that little rapport. You usually do that phone call a handful of times, like the first couple months, and then I just start hitting them with text once a month. Like, hey man, it's once a month check-in, and a lot of people will say like, oh, you should never say follow-up or check-in. To me, man, it's about the consistency of it, right? So it's, hey man, just checking in. I hope all is well with you and your family. As always, if you have any real estate questions or need any real estate help, my phone's always on for you. I do it once a month. Right. I have are you going to get all of them? No. But I can tell you as a consumer, if I was sitting here saying, I think I want to buy a house, is my head going to go, oh, I should call Zillow or I should call the sign? My head's probably going to go, yeah, dude, that guy fucking texts me once a month. I got to call that guy. He's on the ball. And you'd be shocked at the number of cold calls, never met these people, weren't referrals. They were literally online generated leads that ended up using me and used me for no other reason than the fact of I could just consistently stay in touch with them. Right. The other stuff you can do is like, mail out bills, like bill schedule, saver schedule. Like, you just find those touch points. But I'm also not afraid to ask somebody like, am I annoying you? Yeah. Do you want me to reach out less? I don't think there's anything unreasonable about that. And I don't think people take, offense to that. I don't think people would have an issue with it. And it all just goes back to everything that I do. I think about how would I perceive that? Yeah. And that's kind of how I've gone through it. I think one of the coolest real estate stories I have, and it like ties in with this topic. one of my first leads through 716, the company that we were with, because they would provide a ton of online generated leads. Her name was Harriet Boxer. And I can see the houses that Harriet's looking at, and they're like 800 grand, $1 million. And I'm like, holy shit, like this is the mother lode. So I call, I never get through. She finally answers, and I just start shooting the shit with her. And she's like this little old lady from New York City. We hit it off because my girlfriend is also from the New York City area. And literally every month for 2 years, I called her. Wow. Sometimes answered, sometimes didn't. And then we lost touch, and I forget what even happened, but I remember I checked in with her, finally got her back on the phone. And she's like, Sean, I'm so sorry I lost your number. I actually started building a house. And because she was moving back here for her family. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, fuck, like I messed up. Like I should have just continuously followed up. Like I could have gotten in on that build. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I still stayed in touch just to see how the build was going. So I'd say probably like 6 weeks after we reconnected, I get a call from it's like a New York City number. And it's like, hello? And I'm like, hi, who is this? And they're like, is this Sean? And I'm like, oh boy. And she goes, I think you've been talking to my mother. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, like, what did I do? Yeah. And she's like, her name's Harriet. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, like, how are you? And she goes, so our build is falling apart, and my mom is literally dead set on only using you as a real estate agent. And she's like, and I just wanted to call and thank you for, she said that for the last 2 years, you've been constantly just checking in with her. You've never been pushy. And it was genuinely just checking in like, Harriet, how are you? Mm-hmm. Right. And, I think that stuff, like what I try to teach to our agents is, it was, call it 24 months that we did that. Yeah. It was a 2-minute phone call. So for 48 minutes over the course of fucking 2 years, I sat on the phone with this woman. Mm-hmm. She ended up buying like a $900,000 house.
Wow. Yeah.
For 48 minutes of fucking phone calls over 2 years. Yeah, like just do the math.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't, kind of going back to what we said before, is they don't give themselves a long enough time to have success.
Right.
They go, oh, it's been 6 months. I'm done now.
Yep.
And are you familiar with Alex Hormozi at all? Have you come across
Yeah. I've seen him on like Instagram Reels and stuff like that.
So one of his big things is like, he would tell his sales guys to get on calls with the purpose of getting no. So then get over that fear of annoying people. That way his people would come like, man, I got 3 no's today.
Right.
That means you're just doing the action and doing the right inputs.
Yep.
And eventually those no's start turning into yeses and then things like that. I think, it's important just to add that personal touch too.
Yeah.
In terms of like marketing, what have you seen work and not work? Like
your stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Johnny Wagner.
Appreciate that. Right?
So I would say, man, like being on, I'm a bad marketer. I really am. I am your typical real estate agent that is going to post the houses that they listed. I'm going to post the houses I sold. I may throw in some funny photos with clients and stuff like that. Like I had one of us on like a tandem bike during COVID, and it was one of my favorite clients, but he's like a bigger guy, but it was just hilarious. Like the two of us on a tandem bike was hilarious. But, what do I see? I love agents that do video. Like Joe Sorrentino, to me, I think that I would call him, like, I think he does marketing to perfection in Buffalo, at least. Like he switches it up all the time. He has a super good mix of like him and his beautiful family. And then he's like kind of known as the pizza connoisseur in Buffalo. Right. So like does that, but then he does this whole like things I see in houses, and it's all this crazy fucked up shit.
Yeah.
So like, to me, he does that super, super effectively. The hard part for me is I'm somebody that I see a need for it, and I'm definitely looking to fulfill that need to start doing it. And there's times when I get down on myself about it, but then I sit there and it's like, okay, you sold a lot of houses in the last 2, 3, 4 years. You've built this, like my mind has just been pulled in so many different directions that I think that you need to sit down and have I don't think marketing's something you can half-ass. But I think in general, I think just consistently putting out content, and it goes back to the same thing of like, what do good agents do? They consistently do the work. Yeah. It's just, I find that it's tough for a lot of agents to get over that hump of putting themselves out there, excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I definitely haven't scratched the surface with marketing, but that's definitely something that's on like 2024's docket. Just been a crazy couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, I think, getting the leads, following up those leads, that I consider marketing as well. It's a little more manual version of marketing. But I think what I'm coming to realize is almost no matter what that piece of marketing material is, print, mailer, business card somewhere. I think so many people expect that thing to be the thing that not only gets the lead aware of you, but nurtures that lead, follows up with that lead, gets them on the call. Right. And so a lot of times people's expectations are like, my marketing should just do everything for me, but they're missing that follow-up piece or having other things in a system of sorts to like make sure that not only are you getting in front of them, but you're able to engage with them and stuff like that.
And that's the tough spot, right? Is like, and that's where I see a lot of agents struggle, right? Because it's, what does an agent want to do? They want to sell some houses and they want to make some money, but they don't realize, like, first you've got to find the leads. Yeah. Then you've got to work and nurture the leads. Then you've got to take them on showings. Then you've got to get them under contract. And then you've got to deal with the, psychotic mess of getting to closing, right? And sometimes that process can go great and sometimes not so great. But that's the hardest part. And that's what we really try to do effectively, is kind of break down your day from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, and just making like a punch list of, right, setting that time to do the follow-up, setting that time to do the lead generation, setting that time to do the marketing. But it's hard because life happens, and I think the biggest thing is, when I try to stick to a dead set plan and dead set schedule, the first day I always do, I have like 7 people that I've talked to before that are like, hey, I want to see this house. Hey, my aunt wants to sell her. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, this day's gone, so that's the tough spot. But, I just think consistently marketing is the name of the game, but it definitely, to your point, that's just the start.
That's something that I'm starting to learn. I've been doing video for businesses for quite a long time. And I used to think that just creating consistent reels on Instagram was enough, and it can certainly help. Yeah. But it's not enough to really get someone interested, especially on Instagram. Like, they're going to know who you are. Like, so many people know who Johnny is. Yep. But that doesn't necessarily mean there's more stuff that has to go on. So they learn who Johnny is, but then maybe they go to YouTube. So is there anything there? Because they're searching. So I think for me, it's kind of like what you're saying. You go through the day, see what you're doing, where you can plug in better processes. Right. My end, I go with the business sound and say, where can we plug video into your process to make it better? So like those follow-up times. So you say like, hey, just want to send you a quick market update or a quick video I made that I was in your neighborhood the other day and saw these houses for sale. Did you know that? I think it's almost fun to start gamifying someone's day and their business, and like, how can you make that system really efficient? Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely have like jumped on and done like quick video. Like anytime I'm in somebody's neighborhood, like a house I sold, I notice like they're not home, I'll take a quick video out front, and like people get a kick out of it. But more and more, I think people in the industry are going to see like you can't just get away with what we've been able to get away with just the post here, post there. Like it's when I consistently post that my DMs start to flood with people that want to make moves in real estate, which is great. But it's every time I stop is when it really dries up and slows down. And so to me, it's kind of like getting a boat out of water. Yeah. It takes all that energy to get it going. If you keep it there, things are good. But as soon as you stop, it's like, well, shit. We got to restart the fucking thing. Yeah. And it's, I think a lot of people, they kind of let off the brakes a little bit, off the gas when things are good. Yep. And then because things are good, I don't need to be doing all this marketing. Yep. But then maybe right now, people like, no shit, what's going on? A lot of people hitting the panic button right now. If you were just consistently laying that groundwork, and you, especially like a Joe, if you have a really good personal brand, right, where people aren't just following you just to buy or sell a house, but they like to see what you're up to. Yeah. And you just become an authority of the area. Right. Maybe they want to know where to go to pizza. Who are they going to probably look up? They're going to go to Joe's, stuff like that. I think that's really important, that a lot of people it's tough to, it's not a direct revenue generating thing for your business, but it's really important to keep brand. No, 100%, man. No, I agree completely. And it's something that I think a lot of agents struggle with. It's something I struggle with, it just goes back to, there's, we'll have usually not during this time, but there are weeks where it's just like pedal to the metal with clients. But then to your point, if we just focus on the clients that we can serve right now in the next, 0 to 3 months, once those go under contract, you'll see agents kind of start to go, oh shit, I'm out of clients. Right. And that's why, I try to teach to our agents, you got to break up your day. And we've got to care just as much about the people that are 2 years out as the people that are ready right now. And that's kind of how I try to break up my follow-up is, I spend a portion of the day on those long-term prospects. I spend a portion of the day for the people that are 6 to 12 months out, the people that are 3 to 6 months out. And then, your very hot, ready to go people.
But that to me is the key, because right as you get those people under contract, if you did the follow-up the right way, you're just continuously reloading the cycle. Yeah. And that to me is what we've done effectively. And that's what I think a lot of the high producing agents, they do effectively.
Yeah.
You know?
A lot of people just forget about the pipeline.
For sure.
They just see what's in front of them or what's here.
Yep.
And then once it's gone, they shift it down. They're like, shit,
yeah,
I forgot. I'm guilty of it. I've done it too. Or I'm like, damn, where you just get so into like trying to manage everything. And I think that's where strategically hiring out the things that are wasting time or things that you don't necessarily have to do, but maybe you enjoy doing,
right?
To help you kind of focus on that for higher leverage activities in your business, I think is really important.
No, I agree 100%.
So because I want to keep this also interesting for people who maybe aren't agents, sure. I think this is hugely valuable. And hopefully anybody who has any questions on how to be successful reaches out to you. Regarding like buyers and sellers,
sure.
What do you think is like the most important thing to know or do before you're going to sell buy a house?
Buy or sell?
Let's start with
we got two different.
We're going to do both.
Sure. So buy side, I think that it's the number one thing that you'll typically hear is you got to get pre-approved. You got to get pre-approved. And I find that at least from early on in the industry when I first started, there was this persona of you need to get people pre-approved because otherwise you're wasting your time. And I disagree with that business practice 100%. Right? Yeah. Because their whole point of, you're wasting your time is, they're not pre-approved. So they can't buy. Why would you help them? Bro, I'll help the homeless guy on the street. Yeah. I don't care, right? Like, because all of a sudden that one person you helped isn't just that one person. It's how many more people can they tell? Yeah. The reason I tell people to get pre-approved first has nothing to do because I'm worried if they can buy or sell. Yeah, or buy, right? But has everything to do with, at the end of the day, a consumer typically knows where they want to live, right? They know the neighborhood or they know the city or the town. They typically know what they want the house to look like. Mm-hmm. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, right? So they know what it is they're looking for. Here's what I'd argue 90 to 95% of buyers have no idea. They have no idea what the monthly payment looks like, and they have no idea what the cash to close looks like, right? Mm-hmm. And what they really don't understand is, I love it. I'll get people for the first time I talk to them, I'm looking like $200,000. Okay, pre-approved. No. How the fuck do you know what a $200,000 house even costs, right? Because you're going to finance it. Because my point is, right, if you look in the city of Buffalo for $200,000 houses, your taxes are probably like $3,000, $3,500 bucks. Mm-hmm. To where if we go to like Kenmore, your taxes are probably like $6,000, which is a drastic swap in monthly payment. It's a drastic jump in cash to close, right? So that's why I like to start with, like, let's talk to a lender. Not that I want to make, they have to run my credit. They have to do this. And I always kind of remind them, like, okay, imagine this. I take you to a house. You fall in love with it. Your family falls in love with it. We want to make an offer. We go and get pre-approved. And now, mind you, we've seen 10 houses now, all in this price point. You go get pre-approved and you realize that what this house is going to cost does not make sense for you. Mm-hmm. I'm not upset that I wasted my time, because quite honestly, every time I go to a house, if that house isn't for the customer I was with, in my head, I'm going through the Rolodex of who do I have that would buy this, right? Yeah. I love going into houses. So I don't give a shit. I'll go into 100 houses. Doesn't make a difference to me. But I don't want to see somebody go into that house, get them, their family all excited, and then have their heart ripped out, right? And now, especially if we're going down in price, they're going to look at every house going forward to the standard of that house. Mm-hmm. So I just make it where I want you to get pre-approved so that we actually shop in an appropriate price range. Yeah. But more importantly, so I don't waste your time. Mm-hmm. Like, my job is to be in houses. Yeah. You work a full-time job, right? Like, you're going to spend all of your time looking at houses I'm sending you, and then driving to these houses, going through them, getting your hopes up, obviously, hopefully winning. Yeah. But a lot of people, you're going to lose some houses along the way, right? So you're going to take your lumps. So that to me is what I would say every person looking to buy a house, like, that's where you start. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with this premise of like, I want to make sure you're able to buy. Yeah. You're
not required to show me proof of funds.
No.
And two, like, it can take a little bit of time to get a pre-approval done. So like, hey, maybe you look at a house like, offers are due in 3 days.
Right.
And say that person's self-employed. Shit,
100%.
It takes a long time.
The other end of the spectrum too, right, is imagine we're going to those $200,000 houses consistently, and then we're looking at a place like Buffalo that is predominantly use very cheap, affordable taxes for the most part, right? Imagine they get the numbers and now all of a sudden they're like, wow, we can afford 350. We can afford 400. Like, why not just figure out, like I said, you know what it is you're looking for in terms of everything other than, in my opinion, the price. Unless you're a cash buyer.
Sure.
Then now you know what you're working with. Yeah. But I've had it work both ways. I've had dozens of customers. We go and we talk to the lender and now all of a sudden, right, oh, I know my price range. Your price range is now drastically different. And sometimes we go lower and sometimes we can actually go higher. So to me, it makes all the sense in the world. And I get so many people with saying that because it's hard to poke a hole in it, right? Like, it's really hard to say, no, I shouldn't figure out what I'm approved for. Yeah. No, I shouldn't figure out what I can afford on a monthly payment basis before I start running around all over town going into houses.
I think
logical.
One of the things that Johnny told me, it makes so much, this is how I operate anyways, but focus on what you can get monthly is so much more important than the rate. I even told him, like, dude, I don't care what the interest rate is. I don't care.
What's my monthly payment?
It's how much I can afford to pay, whatever.
Right.
And I think that's really important too.
Yeah.
Like, and also the importance of setting expectations, I think is really important in both our businesses. Yeah. I think just by doing that, you're letting them know, like, not only you kind of explaining why this is important, but you're setting expectations. Like, hey, you might not get the first house you look at, and this is kind of how it's going. And I think that's huge to keep educating people on not just what you're telling them to do, but here's why I'm doing it, why I'm telling you that. So yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think where to go with this. So I have 3 more things. So what are you saying to buyers right now regarding the market?
Rates and everything? Yeah. I mean,
no one wants to talk about rates. I'm trying to sell me people talk about it.
You're like, shut the fuck up about rates.
Yeah, but I get it. It's what people are seeing.
It is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody speculates, right? And I have no problem telling people that. When customers ask me, I'm like, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the answer that I believe in. Doesn't mean my answer is right. I might be wrong. They might be wrong. Nobody fucking knows, right? Ultimately, right now is a weird time. It's strange, right? You've got some houses getting listed that would normally have 15, 20 offers and they only get 3. You've got other houses getting listed and they're still getting 15, 20 offers, right? So like kind of seeing this blend of everything. And then you've got some things going on the market that, in my opinion, would have sold a year or 2 years ago. They're just not because of, in my opinion, where rates are, right? But ultimately, I mean, my take on it is it goes back to start with the lender. Yeah. Can we afford it, right? And if we can, right? People are like, oh, I'm going to buy when rates go down. Like I read on Instagram the other day, it was like one of those like real estate pages. It was like, if you waited for rates to go down, I forget what the year period was, but it was like 20 years. If you were waiting for rates to go down from like here to here, you would have waited like 21 years, which then by the time of what the price of that house is, it's drastically different. The approach that I personally take, because obviously I'm a real estate investor as well. So it's always a good feeling. Like I told every single one of my customers this and will continue to do so. I've purchased real estate every single year since 2017. And at every single year, rates have gone up, rates have gone down, right? I've seen it basically all at this point. Every year going forward, I've bought more real estate than the year prior, this year included. So through the chaos of rates going up, I've bought more houses in 2023 than I bought altogether between 2021 and 2022. That's a good feeling to me to be able to tell, like, I trust it. This is where I park my money. But my take on rates and everything is, right, do interest rates suck? Yes. It sucks to say, oh, I have a 7% interest rate or an 8% interest rate, especially when 2 years ago, we were seeing 2.5, 3.5. That's hard for people to swallow. I buy based on what you talked about. I look at it. How much do I have to put down? What's my monthly payment? Does it make sense? Because here's the deal. Whether you buy, don't buy, right? I don't care. What I'm telling you is if you buy now at whatever interest rate and rates continue to go up, you're going to be happy as fuck that you bought. Because your rate's going to be considered good. If rates go down, we'll refi. So like, what are you playing afraid of? And all I ask my clients is, can we sustain this monthly payment on the long term? Right? Because there's no guarantee rates are going down. Now they're saying that they're speculating that they're going to, but
but they're not going to hit 2, 3.
No, I doubt it.
I think people kind of need to snip out those years of like history. Because then I think if you look at everything, it's pretty,
Right.
ebb and flows.
The other thing that I would say is I think that a lot of rates drastically impact people's buying power, right? The lower the rates, typically the more money people can afford to finance and throw around and are willing to because of the cost of the rate. When rates go down, I think we're going to see prices go back up, just like we did the first time. So to me, it's like, I hate saying it because I fucking hate salespeople that do this, but it's like, oh, it's the best time to buy or the best time. If you talk to a fucking realtor, it's always the best time to buy. It's always the best time to sell, always, right? But to me, I can justify saying like, I'm looking to make more purchases than I normally would be right now, even with the rates, because if rates really do go down, the property value, like, we're going to start to see those multiple offers again. We're going to start to see those drastic offers going 40, 50, 60 above the asking price. So to me, I think you can actually get a pretty good deal right now in terms of the price of the house. The rate's going to hurt you. But when those rates go down, you're going to refi, and the house that you just bought at say 600 probably sells for 650. And now you've got 50 grand in equity because you bought when it was bad, right? So that's how I look at it. But it just goes down to, can you afford it, right? Like, is the payment sustainable?
Yeah. Can you afford this? And will it help you get to that end goal of what you see your life?
Right.
For me, it was, I don't want to be in this damn apartment anymore. I don't want to be searching for houses.
Like, it's old.
I was like, this is what I want.
Right.
This is what I can afford. And it ended up working. And Johnny was one of the guys who said, now is always the best time to buy. And I'm like thinking, but it genuinely
it is.
Because now I bought my house and I saw everybody else, really going through it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow. I thought it never feels great.
No.
But it does, at the end of the day, feels good. It's a hard thing to explain.
No, I mean, I agree. It was the first house that I bought. It would have been my fifth or sixth house. I bought a house when my mom was like, the next house you buy, you're moving out of my house. Like, you're done with this, right? And it was in North Buffalo. It's on North Park. And it was before doubles in North Buffalo were going like 300 plus. Yeah, I don't think there was a double at the time that it sold for more than 300. And there was going to be like, I think it was like 24, 25 offers. And I was buying it for me. Yeah. And so I was trying to figure out what to offer. And I'm like, 321. Like that's just the number that felt good. And I waive every contingency. Like I'm basically offering my kidney to win this house. I end up winning it. And I remember like there were people that were like, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, you just paid a price that at the time in North Buffalo, they're like, that's stupid. Like, you're never going to sell it for more. I didn't buy it based off, can I sell it for more? I bought it based off the fact of I could get into it for about 30 grand out of pocket. Total closing cost, down payment, the whole nine. The monthly payment, now mind you, rates are like 2.5%.
Sure.
So we're still locked in over there, but the monthly payment was like $1,850. And I knew that I could rent the lower for $1,500 all day. And the upstairs is like 4 beds, 2 full baths. So I know I could get like $2 grand there. So I'm like, it's going to bring in $3,500. It's going to cost me less than $2 per month.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot not to buy this. And I've kind of always taken that approach on the investment side of things. But now the bonus of it is North Buffalo has become a 350 to 400,000 and beyond type of neighborhood, right? So it's, to me, I've always purchased based on that monthly payment. Now, obviously, when it's your personal house, it's a little different, right? I can't afford it. But on the investment side of things, that's how I've always purchased is like, does the deal itself make sense? I don't care what the price is because I'm not buying anything with the intentions of selling it. If I pay it off with other people's money, right? Now I'm just collecting the rent. I own the place free and clear.
Yeah.
And even when I was paying the house off, right? Like, once the mortgage payment's made, everything else is yours.
Yep.
Once it's paid off, you're just banking all of that money. At the end of the day, say I made, 150 grand off of paying the mortgage off and then the net to me. I don't give a shit if I sell the house for 200. Like, I paid it off with other people's money, made 150 after paying it off with other people's money, and then cashed out for 200 grand. But no, that was a bad buy at 321, right? And that's how I've always taken the approach. But it's hard for people, I think, to see. It was a tough pill to swallow to see like that guy bought that house like 4 years ago for like $110 and 3x his money. But that's tough for everybody. But you can only sit on the sidelines for so long, and I think history kind of shows that in for the most part, if you invest in real estate, in my opinion, the right way, I think it's really hard to get burned, but you got to have the right team behind you. And I think you've got to do your own research and do the right research. But yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Yeah. My buddy is one of the people who sold when things were great.
Yeah.
He used the equity to end up building a house in Hamburg. His house is huge.
Dope.
We have the same payment. I'm like, you bad.
You motherfucker, right? Yeah, it's hard nowadays, man. I have a lot of buyers right now where I'm like, because before we put in any offers, I have the lender work up monthly payment cash to close at the price that we think we're going in at. And I see what they're paying monthly and I'm like, that's steep,
It is what it is though, right?
For what it used to be. Yeah. But it goes back to, right, what's your other option?
Yeah.
You're going to rent for the same price it's going to cost you per month? I'd rather you just build equity, but it's just so different, right? Because 4 years ago, I would see that same neighborhood, that same house, that same price get quoted. And I'm like, wow, this is how much interest rates can really impact things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's interesting to see.
I think people are also kind of afraid of other people's opinions on buying in this market. It's like, who cares? Because if you like the house, you can afford the house.
It's your money.
Or whatever it is. If it's a car, whatever. Just buy it. You're only here for so long. Buy whatever you want to buy. One last question. So what do you do for fun outside of real estate, or is real estate
Yeah, ask my girlfriend. No, real estate, I would say is, I do a fair amount of traveling. I was very fortunate that all throughout college, I was very good friends with a lot of the international students.
Okay.
So I've got very good friends in Germany, France, Italy, like all over. So I do a lot of traveling, but it's hard, man. I really do love real estate. I basically wake up every day and this is what I do. But it's a different approach now, right? It was, for a long time, it was just me worrying about my own business to where now our team has 30 agents, right? So it's for fun. I mean, I like getting the people together, getting people together that I love the most. And, whether it's dinners or, just a weekend hanging out, watching the Bills games, watching college football and stuff like that. But for the most part, man, right now, it's real estate through and through. But it's fun, and then that's what I think I love most about the team is every person on our team. Like I've always said this, like when I get married, my whole real estate team will be at that wedding,
right?
Because it's truly, it's 30 people that I genuinely care about. It's 30 people that genuinely care about me. And they're good people, and most of them are like my best friends, been friends for years now. So, for the most part, it's real estate, but, I'm always down to, get a good group together, go out for a nice dinner and things like that. But,
yeah. I just recently had to specifically looking for a winter hobby that had nothing to do with a camera or that's just if I wasn't doing this for work, it's what I'm doing. It's like, it's really hard to not let that, be the thing all the time. Yeah. And my wife's like, you're just always working. Like some of it isn't work. Some of them just fun around.
Yeah.
But, so I decided I'm going to start DJing.
Nice.
Just in my bedroom to mess around. Yeah. So it's been nice to say and have one thing that gets you away from it.
Yeah.
And,
a lot of my my original friend group, like been friends with the same group of guys since the end of elementary school. Yeah. We used to play a ton of Xbox. Okay. And so we actually just got back on Fortnite and Call of Duty recently. Yeah. And that's typically what I do is once the cold hits and, real estate kind of slows down, I'll get back on Xbox with the boys. So girlfriend hasn't been loving that, but I'm always down to jump on some video games and it's just fun to, be on. Like a lot of our friends that play, they don't live in the immediate area. Yeah. So it's just a nice way to jump on and, have genuine conversation. And that's kind of about it.
Awesome. This is something new I'm going to be starting. Sure. I'm going to let the current person I'm talking to, which is you, set up one question for my next guest. I don't know who it is, but I'm going to ask them one question. What would you
What do you think
they're
of Sean
Mattrey? They're going to be an agent. Hopefully they'll be in the real estate world.
Okay. I think that lead question of I think it'd be really cool if you did a mashup of videos of everybody's response of what do you think makes a good real estate agent? And I'd be interested to see kind of a conglomerate of all of those answers because I think that you'll see a very similar trend. Mm-hmm. I think that would be the question that I'd want you to